Hey, ever wondered how much our beautiful little world is driven by numbers? Right from our passports, licenses, grades, blood reports, performance, paychecks, and every other possible avenue we know is driven by numbers in some sense. For the most part of my life, I grew up in India. The school system there is super competitive and focuses quite on academic performance. Tests and grades influence a lot of how the opportunities look for each student, and sometimes even social reception and perception are quite heavily impacted by the same. Even going through your childhood, regardless of what country you grew up in, everyone was made aware of what IQ tests were, and some students were even required to take them. We see athletes giving their all to the game, and their impact is always measured by some sort of statistics. We abstract each performance with statistics like runs, points, catches, passes, blocks, steals, and other similar metrics. Are we as humans obsessed with quantifying everything as numbers? We live in a world that is hell-bent on categorizing and labeling everything, and unfortunately, humans are not exempt from this practice too. From birth certificates to social security numbers, we are assigned a numerical value that is supposed to define us. This obsession with quantifying human beings is not just limited to government documents. We see it in other areas of our lives as well. At work, employees are often reduced to nothing more than their performance metrics. Funny story, I had a friend who interned at a big tech firm, and even his informal parties would be all about discussing lines of codes written, features implemented, and other stuff. People in sales are judged solely on their numbers, and those numbers determine their bonuses or incentives. This act of boiling everything down to a certain number seems like an act of trying to convert the subjective into the objective. When we convert something subjective into the objective, we rely on the objective measurements and quantification to understand and evaluate the world around us. But there is a problem. When we attempt to convert subjective experiences into objective measurements, we risk losing the important nuances and complexities. This is evident throughout most themes we discussed. Something as old as an IQ test, they have been around forever. But most people agree, and as we saw in the class as well, they do not capture the complete intelligence of a person or a student. Rather, there are many credible theories in psychology that capture the idea of multiple intelligence. Psychologist Howard Gardner from Harvard states that there are as many as 8 types of intelligences, which include visual, linguistic, logical, and one of the types is even musical. An IQ test does a poor job of capturing these distinct intelligences, and yet again, it does not consider things that may be different for each individual, and that is the ideas of perspective, environments, their upbringings, and even the perceived context that they grew up with. We do this even in the broader field of education, where we rely on standardized tests and they are used to evaluate student performance. However, this narrow focus on test scores can lead to a neglect of other important aspects of learning, such as creativity, critical thinking, and social emotional development. There are more avenues affected by this abstraction. Next biggest thing I can think of is sports. One of the examples we can all relate to is the one of Patrick Beverley, possibly one of the most hated NBA players out there. I will say this though, on January 22nd, 2023, the Los Angeles Lakers had a road game in Portland. He was the starting guard, and his numbers were such: 4 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 1 block in almost 30 minutes. Now note, these are not impressive numbers for a starter, but what most people do not remember is that he ended showing a lot of heart and delivered one of the most stellar defensive performances. Lakers were trailing at the half, and he was able to shut down all the Portland shooters, including the likes of Damian Lillard, in the second half, and just contributed positively to the offense as well. He was truly the player of the game that night. Now, to view these records objectively would be a disservice to the game Patrick Beverley played, and would take away from his actual contribution. Anybody who looks at the stat sheet above is not going to be happy with him being a starter on the team, but if you rely on the eye test and subjectively grade his performance, you realize the depth of the impact he's had in the game. He turned it around and possibly saved the Lakers' season. For reference, here's a montage of the defensive highlights of that game.
Damian Lillard, they take it away. Here come the Lakers. It's 4-on-2. Lob,
LeBron steals 7:16 to play in the game.
I'm taking it right to the basket. Got bumped, foul, basket, and one, and the Lakers held on. Brandon Clark could not knock down 2 free throws. Simons working on Schroeder.
Here's the hot hand.
Yeah, open in the corner, too. The sold-out crowd at the Moda Center. You can sense it. Again, just a complete turn in this game. It was a 25. Oh, they threw it away. Lakers have it. 3-on.
Pass to Lillard, and all Schroeder did was back up.
15-3 run. The ups and downs of the NBA. If you're enjoying it on Spectrum Sportsnet or the Spectrum app.
Big leads are good, but they can be dangerous.
Lillard, he attacks again. Scoop it. Out on top,
Thomas
shot.
Bryant,
He's hurt again.
Got hit in the face.
And leaking out is Bev. It's a single, like we said. He loves it in the corner. 2-point game.
Troy Brown Jr. has always been a pretty good three-point shooter from the corner area. 8:07 left.
Lillard trying to answer back. Schroeder, 6 for 12. He's made a couple of threes, all 8 of his free throws. Lakers, what a turnaround. Drive, kick. They're going baseline with Josh Hart. Three-pointer, Lakers.
Hence, the art of scouting is always centered around going in person and making trips all around the world to see how players play, versus just collecting their stats and performance records. This makes the process more holistic, and you're able to learn a lot about the player's ability to play a role, fit a culture, see how he or she can be cohesive, and help out their teammates. Even something like how do they respond under pressure or make the right play. This echoes back to the point of how we tend to casually just use abstraction to make our job easier. We have started using objective abstraction to make every single decision. But what we lose is the idea of context. There's a good reason why there's still analysts debating over the use of eye tests and statistics, and that's because subjectivity can still convey a lot more. I feel like we, as humans, have a gift to see beyond what meets the data frame, and we must use a union of objective and subjective approach to understand and appreciate the world around us. Truly respect the richness as well as the function of every single element we see. Thank you for your time.